This isn't a story about the gruesome details the media obsessed over. It's about something far more American. The way our own institutions can fail the people they're supposed to protect. For 13 years, Jeffrey Dahmer walked freely through Milwaukee. Not because he was brilliant, not because he was lucky, but because the system kept letting him go. These weren't small mistakes. These were moments when someone should have been saved and wasn't. The monster next door, Milwaukee, in the 1980s, looked like so many American cities trying to survive economic decline. Whole neighborhoods were separated not just by streets, but by race, income, and opportunity. In the middle of that divide stood the Oxford Apartments, ordinary, overlooked, home to families, immigrants, and people working impossible hours just to get by. Dahmer knew how to disappear in plain sight, awkward, quiet, a man whose face blended into the background. He weaponized normalcy, but the cracks in his mask began years before he was caught, with a death that should have changed everything. Failure number 1, the 1987 no-memory homicide. In November 1987, Dahmer took 25-year-old Stephen Tuomi to a hotel room. By morning, Stephen was dead. Dahmer claimed he didn't remember killing him. No struggle, no explanation, just a dead man and an unbelievable story. But Stephen wasn't a mystery. He was a son, a friend, a man with a life ahead of him. Instead of digging deeper, the police accepted Dahmer's claim at face value. They didn't investigate properly. They didn't trace Dahmer's past behavior. They didn't push the inconsistencies. A dead body in a hotel room should have triggered an immediate homicide investigation. Instead, it became a footnote, a missed opportunity that allowed a killer to keep perfecting his methods. The scene on the street. 4 years later, the consequences of that failure reached their most horrifying point. 3 women, Sandra Smith, Nicole Childress, and Tina Spivey, were walking near the apartments when they saw him, a terrified, bleeding, naked 14-year-old boy stumbling down the street. His name was Konorak Synthasamphone. He was shaking, drugged, unable to speak. The women knew immediately. This child needed help. Then Dahmer appeared, calm, rehearsed, lying with a confidence that had worked too many times before. The police arrive. If you grew up in America, you know the belief we all hold. When a child is in danger, when people call for help, the police will step in and protect them. But that night, something very different happened. The 3 women pleaded with the officers. This is a child. He's bleeding. He is not safe. But the police didn't listen to them. They listened to Dahmer, the calm white man who looked like he belonged. They returned Konorak to the apartment, to his killer. And they drove away. The unspeakable act. That night, Konorak Synthasamphone, a 14-year-old child who had escaped his attacker, was murdered. 3 women tried to save him. The system didn't listen. Systemic blindness. Why didn't they believe the women? Why didn't they question Dahmer's story? Because this wasn't just about one killer. It was about the America of that era, a country where policing often depended on who you were, what you looked like, and which neighborhood you lived in. Dahmer understood that. He chose victims the system was already ignoring. The silence of the victims. Families, many of them immigrants or people of color, filed missing persons reports that went nowhere. Neighbors complained about chemical odors, screaming, the sound of power tools. The official response? Probably spoiled meat. 17 victims. Spoiled food. Imagine being a parent in America and realizing your missing child isn't being searched for because of the neighborhood you live in or the color of your skin. That's the America these families faced. The chain finally breaks. Dahmer wasn't stopped by police work. He was stopped by one man's refusal to die. Tracy Edwards escaped apartment 213 on July 22, 1991, still handcuffed, still terrified. He flagged down officers who finally listened. When police opened a bedside drawer, they didn't find a knife. They found the Polaroids, 17 lives documented in chilling detail. Backup arrived. The nightmare was over, not because the system worked, but because one survivor kept running. In the end, Jeffrey Dahmer was the monster, but monsters don't survive this long without help. And in this case, the help came from silence, disbelief, and a system that looked away until it was too late. This case isn't just about one man's horrors. It's about the chain of decisions made by people in power. Decisions shaped by race, stereotypes, overstretched police departments, and the dangerous assumption that someone like him couldn't be capable of real evil. Think about the pattern. Stephen Tuomi's death wasn't investigated. The complaints from neighbors weren't believed. The missing men weren't prioritized. 3 black women trying to protect a child were ignored, and Konarak, a 14-year-old boy, was returned to the very apartment he escaped from. These weren't isolated failures. They were symptoms of something deeper, a system that listened to the calm voice of a white man and dismissed the fear, pain, and truth of the people around him. These failures didn't just allow Dahmer to keep killing. They protected him. They shielded him with assumption, with disbelief, with the benefit of the doubt that his victims never received. And that's the part we have to confront. This wasn't only a story of one predator. It was a story of which lives were valued and which lives were ignored. Because if Stephen Tuomi's death had been questioned, if the neighbors had been believed, if those 3 women had been heard, if the police had treated a bleeding child like a child, so many lives could have been saved. So I want to ask you, what do you think was the single moment, the single turning point, where the system could have stopped this tragedy? Tell us in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into how justice succeeds and how it fails.